Hi everybody, I hope working with rational expressions is going okay. I wanted to remind you of an important point having to do with working with rational expressions, which is this. If you're going to multiply, divide, or rational expressions, or put them over a common denominator, you have to be able to, you have to factor everything in sight first. So being able to factor is a really important part of working with rational expressions. That's why the chapter on factoring comes before the chapter on rational expressions. So here's an example of factoring that caused a little bit of trouble for some people. This is from a problem somewhere in the rational expressions homework. So to factor this, remember the first thing that you should do anytime you're thinking about factoring something, the very first thing you should do is look for a greatest common factor. With these three terms here, each coefficient is divisible by 3, so we'll be able to factor out a 3. Also, each coefficient has a factor of y, so we can factor out a y as well. So we're going to factor out 3y, and then let's see what's left over once we factor out the 3y. So from this first part, there's y squared left over. From the second part, when you factor out a 3 from 15, you get 5. And when you factor out y from y squared, you get y. And then in this third part, just 6, minus 6. Okay? Now we need to continue factoring if possible. And if you look at this part right here, this part we can factor further. The 3y part, we're done factoring that. So from now on, that part isn't going to change. So now we need to factor y squared plus 5y minus 6. I like to do the guess method myself, so let's see. I'm going to need a plus and a minus because I have a minus sign right here next to my constant. So I need a minus here, I need a plus here. Because of the y squared over here, I need a y here and a y here. And now I just need to come up with factors of 6 that add up to, factors of negative 6 that add up to positive 5. There are only a few possibilities to check, but one of the possibilities is a positive 6 and a negative 1. Okay? Whenever you factor something by guessing like this, you should always check. So off in the margin, or maybe just in your head, you can check that this factoring is right. So we're going to get y squared. Y times 6 is plus 6. Negative 1 times y is, plus 6y. Negative 1 times y is negative y. And then negative 1 times 6 is negative 6. And then combine like terms. And sure enough, you get what we started with. So this factoring is correct. Now at this point, 3, that's prime, y, that's prime, y minus 1 and y minus 6, those are both prime. So now we're done factoring. Now we can continue doing whatever we were going to do with this rational expression. Maybe now we could simplify a rational expression or figure out what a common denominator should be, something like that. Okay? So the main point here with factoring is don't forget to look for a greatest common factor. If you can factor out a greatest common factor first, it will make everything else easier. All right, good luck.